Welcome to Health Hacktivators with lifestyle medicine doctor, GP and longevity expert Dr. Alka Patel. This show will help you to discover a hidden health hacking code that unlocks your phenomenal potential for an outstanding health span, lifespan and wealth span. The show features candid conversations with celebrities, influencers and industry icons, real-life stories and cutting-edge health activating advice that other doctors might not tell you. Discover why now is the time to join the strategic self-care revolution and experience the profound effects this will have on your personal and professional success. Now, here is your host, Dr. Alka Patel.
Before we get into today's show, please do support today's show partner, Youth and Earth. Youth and Earth have a range of products that I love to use myself to supercharge my metabolism, to support my health, and to slow down cellular aging. Just be sure you click the link in the show notes for exclusive offers, which Youth and Earth are so generously giving for listeners of this show. Hi, hey, and hello, Health Activators. Are you ready to unlock your health activation code in 3 steps, making decisions using data and devices? On today's show, I am asking 1 question, reviewing 2 references, and giving you 3 hacks so that activating your health is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Today, we're talking about mindfulness. And the 1 question that I'm asking today is, how can you make mindfulness easy? Now, last week, I was talking to the fabulous Mr. Fabulous. So please do make sure, if you haven't already listened to our conversation, then go over and have a listen to it, because it really is a very honest and open reflection. He talks about so many things: diversity, prejudice, victimization, narcissism, near death and trauma. And he talks about strength and sleep and success, and also about mindset and mindfulness. And what Mr. Fabulous shared with us last week was how he used mindfulness to help him overcome his difficulties. So that's what's promoted me to talk about mindfulness today. So today, what I want to do is open up this whole topic of mindfulness, and I'll be talking about what it is and what it isn't, and also talking about the benefits of mindfulness, as well as giving you easy ways to impregnate mindfulness as part of your daily approach to life. Now, I have recently just run the London Marathon 2023. Oh yes, and I've got the badge to prove it. 26.2 miles, and I am so chuffed. You know, this was one of the most life-affirming things that I've done. And there's a few things, but one thing that I didn't realize as I was running was that there were cameras everywhere. I mean, they were out of sight, but they were there. And how do I know this? Well, I know this because after the run, I was sent all of the photos that were unknowingly taken of me. 173 photos. And you know what? In every single one of those pics, I am smiling. I smiled throughout the run. I smiled throughout the pain. So there I was, and I hit the halfway mark just after coming across the iconic Tower Bridge, and my back started to twinge. I started to experience a spasm with every step, and then pain in my knee kicked in. But I kept going with a smile. And the reason for this, the reason for being able to keep going with a smile, well, I put it down to one thing. And that one thing is running a mindful marathon. So you see, before I ran, so many people asked me that very common question: what time are you aiming for? And my answer was always the same. I'm not running to achieve a time. I'm running to enjoy every moment. I'm running to embrace every experience. And the way that I was able to do that was by running what I now describe as a mindful marathon. Which then brings me to the question, what is mindfulness? Well, it is very simple, really. Mindfulness is simply intentional awareness. That's it. Mindfulness is a state of intentional awareness of the present moment. So what it involves is paying attention to the present moment with a sense of curiosity and openness and acceptance without getting caught up in any judgment or any analysis or any distraction. Mindfulness is simply about fully engaging in the present experience. So, to explore this further and to look at the various components that make up mindfulness and to give you ways to make mindfulness easy, what I'm going to do is use an analogy. I'm going to explain and explore mindfulness through a running metaphor, a marathon metaphor. And I'm going to use the acronym marathon to do this, MARATHON. So let's dive into this. Here are the 8 components of mindfulness. M, meaningful moments. What does meaningful moments mean? Well, it's the idea of being fully present and fully engaged in each moment. It's the idea of embracing the journey. You see, running a marathon is not just about reaching the finish line. It's also about enjoying the journey along the way. And then similarly, mindfulness, it isn't about constantly striving for a future outcome. It's about being fully present in this moment. So running a marathon mindfully, well, it involves being fully present with each step, savoring that experience of running and appreciating the sights and the sounds and the sensations along the race route. And this is exactly what I did along the race route. I think it was 5 miles. I hit mile 5 and I said, right, for the next mile, I'm going to focus on everything that I can hear. And I immersed myself in that. I immersed myself in that rhythmical shuffle of feet pounding on the road, in the joyous words from the crowds shouting out, "Come on, Alka, you've got this." I immersed myself in the sounds of the steel band. And then another mile, I said, right, now to focus on everything I see. All the sights, the other runners, their outfits, the names on the backs of their t-shirts, the crowds, their expressions, the bands on the balconies, all those London landmarks. It was a simple, gentle appreciation of being able to see and gratitude for what I saw. So in a similar way, mindfulness in your day-to-day encourages you to simply bring an awareness to now, to the present moment, without getting caught up in any of the what ifs and the if onlys. What if I injure myself? If only I'd trained more. None of that. No regrets. When you're being mindful, no regrets about the past, no worries about the future. Mile 15, I got to mile 15 and I focused on what I could feel. The stretch on my calf, the rain on my face. Yes, it was a very, very rainy day. The feeling of gratitude and the feeling of love for my father who passed away. And I was also aware of the feelings, the signals that my body was sending to me: thirst, lightheadedness, pain. And as a runner, what is important is to listen to your body and to take care of yourself. So again, in a similar way, mindfulness in your day-to-day encourages you to tune in to your body and notice your physical sensations, your emotional sensations, and then respond with self-care and self-compassion. So by running a mindful marathon, even though I encountered moments of discomfort, all I had to do was stay focused on the now, on the present moment, and take one step at a time. And this is the fundamental basis of mindfulness, to be fully present with each moment as it unfolds, without constantly striving for a future outcome. So here's a tip. We live life as sensory experiences. So when you find yourself moving away from being present, when you find yourself thinking about the future that hasn't happened yet or the past that has, then use this technique called dropping the anchor. Drop your anchor into the now, into the present moment by focusing on 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste, and you're back in the present, because you can only truly experience your senses in the present moment. And here's something else important to know as well. By focusing on meaningful moments and embracing your journey in life, you can also foster a much deeper sense of appreciation, of gratitude, of joy. By being fully present and engaged in any process, you'll discover this deeper connection with yourself and with others and with the world around you. So just as runners experience a sense of accomplishment and joy during a marathon, mindfulness also helps you to cultivate a sense of wonder and appreciation and gratitude for the beauty, the simple beauty of life's moments. And that is exactly what running a mindful marathon gave me. And it's exactly what being mindful in your everyday will give you. Simply give you a more fulfilling experience of life's journey. Let's move to A for accepting adversity. Now, mindfulness encourages you to accept difficult situations as they are, without judgment, without resistance. When you practice accepting adversity, you learn to approach challenges with this sense of, as I've described already, openness and curiosity, and to see adversity as an opportunity for growth and learning. So accepting adversity, well, it can be about accepting emotions, for example. Mindfulness involves acknowledging and accepting your emotions, whatever they might be. And when you practice accepting emotions, you learn to respond to them with compassion and curiosity, rather than trying to suppress them or avoid them. Just notice and name your emotions. There's anger showing up. There's sad Susan. Here's angry Alfie. And accepting adversity, well, it can also be about accepting imperfection. And mindfulness teaches you to accept yourself and others as imperfect beings, without judgment, without criticism. When you practice accepting imperfection, you again cultivate this greater sense of self-compassion, of empathy, and you're much better able to communicate with others on a much deeper level. Or accepting adversity by accepting uncertainty. Mindfulness encourages you to accept uncertainty as an inevitable part of life, rather than trying to control or avoid it. So when you practice accepting uncertainty, you again learn to live in the present moment rather than constantly worrying about the future or ruminating on the past. So accepting adversity really is a key aspect of mindfulness that can then help you to navigate difficult, challenging situations with much greater ease and with much greater resilience as well. So for example, when you experience adversity, so adversity meaning something that you don't want, your initial reaction might be to resist it, to fight against it, or to try and control the situation. But this resistance is what amplifies your suffering. It makes it more difficult to find a solution. So what accepting adversity involves is letting go of resistance and embracing the situation as it is. As I said, without judgment, without criticism. And adversity can be a powerful teacher, helping you to develop resilience and strength and perseverance. By accepting adversity, you can learn to face challenges rather than see them as these insurmountable obstacles. And this then helps you to develop greater resilience in the face of adversity and can also help you cultivate a much greater sense of gratitude and appreciation for the good things in your life. And the other thing is that accepting adversity also helps you develop greater self-compassion for yourself. Now, I know when you're struggling with a difficult situation, it's so easy, isn't it, to become self-critical or judgmental. It's so easy. However, by that acceptance of adversity, by recognizing that adversity is part of life, you could learn to respond to yourself with greater kindness and greater understanding. And of course, it's challenging. Of course, accepting adversity can be challenging, especially if you've got a tendency to be hard on yourself, which so many of us do. But remember, adversity is a part of the human experience. We all face it. But instead of harsh criticism, instead of harsh judgment, practice self-compassion. So you can respond to yourself with kindness and understanding. And just to clarify, look, accepting adversity, it doesn't mean ignoring or suppressing your feelings about a situation that you don't like or that you don't want. It's really, really important to acknowledge and validate your emotions that do arise in response to adversity, whether that's sadness or anger or frustration or anxiety or any number of emotions. But what mindfulness does is it helps you to develop the ability to observe and accept your emotions without getting caught up in them, without judging yourself for having them, without trying to run away from them. And it also helps you to focus on what you can control. Because when you're faced with adversity, it is, as I've said, so easy to feel powerless or helpless. But accepting the situation as it is doesn't mean that you're giving up or that you're resigning yourself to your fate. But instead, you can choose to focus on the things that you can control, things like your own actions and your own reactions. So simply by directing your energy and your attention towards the things that you can influence, you'll feel more empowered, you'll feel more proactive, even though adversity is still there, even in the face of adversity. So instead, see adversity as an opportunity for growth. It can be a real catalyst for growth and transformation. It can allow you to develop new skills and new perspectives and increase strengths as well. And by accepting adversity and approaching it with this curiosity, with this openness, you learn valuable lessons about yourself and the world around you. And as I've already highlighted, you also develop this deep sense of appreciation and gratitude for the good things in your life, which then creates a greater sense of happiness and well-being. So imagine this. Imagine you're running a marathon. Can you imagine that? And imagine that at around mile 18, you start to feel a sharp pain in your knee. Now, your initial reaction might be to panic or get frustrated, thinking about how much training you put in and how close you are to the finish line. However, if you practice mindfulness, you might approach the situation differently. Instead of getting caught up in the negative thoughts and the negative emotions, you can accept the adversity of the situation as it is. You can acknowledge the pain and the discomfort in your knee without judging it or wishing it away. And next, you can then focus on what you can control. And that might involve adjusting your pace or your stride to then reduce the impact on your knee. And so simply by directing your attention towards what you can control, you can take proactive steps to mitigate the adversity and continue on with the race. And throughout this process, you can practice self-compassion, responding to yourself with kindness and understanding rather than berating yourself for the pain or the frustration that you're experiencing. So you can see by approaching this situation with a sense of curiosity and openness, you might also see the adversity of the situation as an opportunity for growth, learning valuable lessons about your body and your resilience and your ability to overcome challenges. Well, this is exactly what happened to me during the race. And I was able to use mindfulness to tolerate discomfort without letting it derail me from my goal, which was to enjoy the race and finish. I even used the pain as a kind of anchor, a reminder to stay focused in the present moment and in the task at hand. I learned to respond to myself with kindness and understanding, recognizing that pain and discomfort, they're a natural part of the human experience too. And ultimately, the experience of running a marathon with knee pain taught me valuable lessons about resilience and self-care and self-compassion. And by accepting the adversity of the situation, I didn't want to have knee pain, but by accepting it and by practicing mindfulness, I've been able to create a massive sense of well-being, which has continued to stay with me despite the marathon now being over. So let's move on to R. M-A-R. R is reflecting on progress, reflecting on the journey. Now, after completing a marathon, runners tend to reflect on their experiences. They reflect on lessons learned, reflect on personal growth, just like I'm doing right now. And this reflection is what gives you a deeper understanding of you, of yourself. I've been reflecting on thoughts and feelings and sensations that I experienced during the race. I've reflected on how the marathon has impacted me physically and emotionally. Reflection has been what's helped me to appreciate my accomplishments and recognize the lessons that I've learned from the marathon experience. And all of this is exactly what mindfulness does. Mindfulness encourages self-reflection. So with reflection, you bring your awareness to your thoughts and your emotions and your sensations without judgment or attachment. With mindfulness, you reflect on your inner experiences with this open, curious attitude, just observing and acknowledging your experiences without trying to change them or control them. And reflection through mindfulness also helps you to recognize your patterns, to recognize your automatic reactions and your habitual patterns, which you can then shape. Reflecting on your journey, reflecting on your progress also allows you to make meaning out of your experiences and integrate them into that sense of self. It creates this, what I describe as coherence with your own life narrative. It's creating your own life story, which extends then to all aspects of your life: work, relationships, personal growth. M-A-R-A. You're an A for acknowledging accomplishments. Crossing the finishing line of a marathon is a moment of accomplishment. It's a moment that I will never forget. What mindfulness does is it encourages you to acknowledge and celebrate your victories and your achievements in life, no matter how large or small you might think they are. Running the marathon, well, I celebrated every mile. In fact, not just every mile, I was able to double celebrate because along the route, there's markers, and there's markers not only for every mile, but also markers for every kilometer too. So lucky me, I got to celebrate every mile and every kilometer. And then crossing that finishing line after 26.2 miles was a momentous occasion that absolutely deserved celebration. And by celebrating, well, what's happened? Well, I've had this boost to my self-esteem and to my self-confidence, and more importantly, to my motivation. I found that I've got this new vigor and this new vitality. It's created this positive feedback loop. And also through celebration, I've been able to express gratitude to every amazing supporter out there, gratitude to the privilege of being able to do what I did, gratitude to my mind and my body, and gratitude simply for the journey itself. So similarly, in mindfulness practice, celebrating achievements involves recognizing and acknowledging the progress and the growth that you're making in your mindfulness journey itself. Because mindfulness, well, it is a skill and it requires practice and it requires patience. So celebrating small milestones, things like consistently practicing mindfulness or noticing progress in managing your thoughts and your emotions or experiencing moments of increased presence and awareness. All of that fosters a positive mindset, which then encourages further practice and creates this bigger sense of personal achievement. Celebrating achievements, well, it's a reminder of your capacity for growth and for progress as well. And the other thing is a sense of community and connection. So in marathon running, the celebration of achievements is something that is shared. It's shared with fellow runners, it's shared with supporters, with family, and with friends, with colleagues, and it creates this sense of camaraderie and a shared accomplishment. And in mindfulness, well, celebrating achievements, they can be shared. too. They can be shared with a mindfulness group or with a community of people like you, with like-minded individuals, which then creates this very supportive environment for encouragement and mutual celebration. So mindfulness through acknowledging achievements and celebrating achievements is a brilliant, brilliant source of motivation, of inspiration, and of connection as well. Okay, T. We are on T for training with perseverance. So just as marathon training involves consistent physical practice to build endurance and strength and stamina, mindfulness also requires consistent mental practice to cultivate awareness, presence, and resilience. So mindfulness involves training your mind to be fully present in the moment without judgment, just as marathon training involves training your body to endure the physical demands of running. So for mindfulness, well, what can this look like? Well, this can include practices like mindful breathing or body scans or mindful eating, very similar to the physical exercises and drills that marathon runners do to prepare for a race. And there's also the importance of regularity and consistency. So as part of my training in the run up to marathon day, I was gradually increasing my running mileage and my intensity over time, following a training schedule to progressively build my physical fitness. And in the same way, mindfulness practice also involves gradually building your mental muscle of awareness and presence through regular practice. So just like marathon training, mindfulness practice requires discipline and commitment. So just as marathon runners need to stay motivated and set goals and overcome challenges along the way, practicing mindfulness means that you might also encounter difficulties and distractions and resistance. So to be honest, my training at times was stop-start, hit and miss. Weeks would go by when I didn't train at all. But I learned to lean into this. I learned to persevere and stay focused. So it's the same with practicing mindfulness. You might wander, you might get distracted, but you can also learn to gently bring back your attention back to the present with patience, regardless of any distractions or challenges that you have. And by training your mind through mindfulness, you'll develop qualities such as better concentration, better focus, better emotional regulation, which aren't then just beneficial to the mindfulness practice itself, but also every other aspect of your life, things like your work and relationships and your personal well-being and your health. So just as marathon training can improve a runner's physical fitness and emotional fitness, mindfulness practice can do exactly the same. And remember, mindfulness is not a one-time event, but it's a continuous practice that needs effort and consistency and discipline, just like training for a marathon. H is for honoring connections. Now, a marathon is a huge community event that brings people together, and running then creates connections amongst runners and amongst supporters. Mindfulness does the same thing. It creates connection and empathy with others by promoting deep listening, understanding, and compassion. When I was running my mindful marathon, I can 100% attest to the connection that I made with the spectators and the supporters lining the streets. They were incredible, and they had a very, very key part to play in lifting my whole experience of the run. So marathon training, connecting with others can occur in various ways. So for some people, training for a marathon involves running with a group or a training partner, which then gives you motivation and support and accountability. Sharing your journey with others, it creates a sense of camaraderie because runners then relate to each other's challenges and their triumphs and their experiences. For me, though, I preferred more solitary training when it came to my physical training, because I found that this, for me, was a time that I was simply getting to know myself. But what I loved was connecting with other runners for their advice and for their tips. And then during the marathon race itself, I drew masses of energy and motivation from those cheering crowds and from fellow runners and from fellow race volunteers as well. I had a huge sense of connection. So similarly, in mindfulness practice, connecting with others can be valuable. So you can practice mindfulness individually, but you can also do it in a group setting, such as in mindfulness classes, for example. And practicing mindfulness with others, it creates, again, a sense of belonging and support, sharing experiences, insights, challenges. And group mindfulness practice, it can give you that motivation and the accountability and sense of community as well, which then enhances your overall mindfulness journey. And what we know, of course, is that social connections and relationships have a very, very positive impact on emotional well-being. But also, connecting to purpose. I had a very strong sense of why I was running, honoring my connection to my father who sadly passed away 20 years prior. Honoring running to raise awareness of blood and organ donation, filled with gratitude for the kindness of strangers who'd donated to my father 100 units of blood that he received in an attempt to save his life. I was very aware of that connection whilst I was running. And whilst running, I was also aware of all the other runners and their connection with their purpose, all emblazoned over their t-shirts, running for charities like Alzheimer's or Macmillan Cancer Research or Lupus UK or MND, running with words and photos on the backs of their t-shirts. This is for you, Mum, in memory of you, Granddad, for you, little Sarah. You see, connecting with your purpose creates a sense of contribution and interconnectedness. And this is what mindfulness gives you too: connection and contribution. MARATHO. We are on O for overcoming obstacles, overcoming challenges. So marathons can be physically and emotionally challenging. There is absolutely no doubt about that. Moments of self-doubt and fatigue and pain and unexpected obstacles as well along the race route. And similarly, in mindfulness practice, challenges can also arise. Things like difficulty staying focused, or not being able to manage racing thoughts, or dealing with emotional discomfort, or facing resistance to being present. So what both marathon running and mindfulness require is resilience and determination and the ability to overcome challenges along the way. So just as marathon runners need to develop emotional toughness to push through physical discomfort, mindfulness practitioners, they need to cultivate emotional resilience to face and navigate challenges that arise during mindfulness practice. So what's important is to develop coping strategies and techniques to deal with challenges, both in marathon running and in mindfulness. So for marathon runners, what might this look like? Well, this might involve techniques such as pacing yourself, or proper hydration and nutrition, or mental strategies to stay motivated and focused. So for me, what this looked like was, whilst I was running, well, I had 2 mantras that I used to push me through. One was one that I said out loud at every mile, and that was, start with my heart, smile at every mile, and mend at the end. And the other one, which is one that I used when I could feel my physical posture changing, was head up, eyes up, smile, and breathe. And these 2 mantras really helped push me along, gave me that mental toughness. So similarly, in mindful practice, there's also strategies that you can use, strategies which can include techniques like mindful breathing or body scan, things that can help you regulate your emotions and managing your racing thoughts and overcome distractions as well. And finally, we're on N for nurturing self-care. So in marathon running, it's about finding the right approach to pushing yourself to achieve what you set out to achieve whilst at the same time taking utmost care of yourself to avoid injury or avoid burnout, and managing all those aspects of training such as physical exertion and rest and recovery and nutrition and emotional well-being. Running a mindful marathon, that's what helped me to develop self-awareness, to listen to my body, to make informed decisions about my training patterns and my nutrition and my rest. So similarly, mindfulness practice, it involves cultivating a sense of equilibrium between striving for personal growth and self-improvement, whilst also accepting and appreciating oneself as is. So finding equilibrium in both marathon running and mindfulness, it involves recognizing and managing your energy levels. So you need to understand and respect your body's signals and avoid extremes of overexertion or fatigue. And what mindfulness does is it helps you to become attuned to your body's cues and to develop self-care practices to manage your energy levels effectively. And finding that equilibrium in marathon running and mindfulness, it then contributes to your overall well-being. And when you find equilibrium in your training, in your rest and nutrition and your emotional well-being as a marathon runner, then you're much more likely to perform optimally. So similarly, finding equilibrium in your mindfulness practice, that then leads you to have increased emotional regulation, stress reduction, increased focus, increased productivity, closer relationships, being more optimal in your health and in your life. So there you have it. Now you know exactly how I ran my mindful marathon. And with that as an analogy to compare to, you now know what mindfulness is. Meaningful moments, accepting adversity, reflecting on progress, acknowledging achievements, training with perseverance, honoring connections, overcoming obstacles, and nurturing self-care. That's what mindfulness is. But what is mindfulness not? Now, sometimes mindfulness does get confused with other concepts or other practices, and that's due to similarities in their focus on present moment awareness and intentional attention. So what are some of these common misconceptions? Well, meditation is one, but mindfulness and meditation are not the same thing. Meditation is much more of a formal practice. It needs you to set aside time and space to practice. Whilst mindfulness, well, although it can be practiced as a specific planned exercise, what it is a quality of attention that you can integrate into daily life at any moment. And that's the important part. At any moment. You can be mindful at any moment. And mindfulness also gets confused with relaxation. And that's because mindfulness can promote relaxation, but that is not its primary aim, because mindfulness is much more active. It involves actively paying attention to the present moment with non-judgmental awareness. It's not about zoning out. It's about zoning in. It's a very active and intentional practice that involves actively engaging with the present moment. And then there's also the misconception that mindfulness needs you to have no thoughts. It requires an absence of thought, which is incorrect as well. But instead, what it is it's quite the opposite. Mindfulness involves noticing your thoughts as they arise without getting caught up in them or without getting carried away by them. It's about cultivating an observing stance, being the observer of your thoughts without engaging in any rumination or in any judgment. And then there's also the myth that mindfulness means being positive all the time. And mindfulness, well, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't require you to suppress or deny any negative thoughts or negative emotions. What it does involve, though, is acknowledging and accepting the full range of human experiences. And that, of course, includes positive and negative aspects, but just accepting them with a non-judgmental awareness and with self-compassion. So I hope so far that's provided clarity on what mindfulness is and what mindfulness isn't. So what I also want to share today is thinking about, well, what's going on at the level of the brain when you're mindful? Because there's lots and lots of neuroscientific research which has shown that mindfulness can impact brain structure and function in several ways. So I'm going to take you through some of the parts of the brain. And the reason I want to do this is so that you can then understand how some of the mindfulness benefits are created. So if we start with the prefrontal cortex, mindfulness has been shown to increase activity and thickness of your prefrontal cortex. So that's the region of your brain that's responsible for those executive level functions, things like decision making and attention and emotional regulation. So what this then leads to is improved cognitive skills, improved decision making abilities. Then there's something called your default mode network. So your default mode network, your DMN, it's a network of brain regions that are active during rest. They're active when you're daydreaming. They're active when your mind is wandering. So what mindfulness does is it decreases activity in the default mode network. So this reduction in DMN activity during mindfulness then results in decreased rumination and increased present moment focused, which is exactly what you want. The amygdala. Well, the amygdala is a region of the brain which is involved in processing emotions, and those include emotions like your fear and also your stress responses. And what mindfulness does is it decreases amygdala activation, which then means less anxiety responses, less stress responses. So again, this then in turn results in improved emotional regulation, improved resilience to stress as well. Then there's your hippocampus. So your hippocampus is the region of your brain that's important for learning and memory. And what's been found in regards to mindfulness is that mindfulness increases the size and the activity of your hippocampus, which then means you've got much better memory and learning abilities. The insula. The insula is a region of your brain that's involved in interoception. What's interoception? Well, interoception is your ability to perceive and process internal body sensations. And what mindfulness does, it increases activity in the insula, which then leads to greater body awareness, greater emotional awareness, greater interoceptive awareness of your sensations. And in addition to brain areas, well, there's also an effect on neurotransmitters. So mindfulness has been found to impact chemical neurotransmitters in the brain. So things like increasing the production of GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. That's a neurotransmitter that's associated with relaxation, with reduced anxiety as well. And dopamine as well. Mindfulness is found to increase dopamine levels in the brain. And dopamine, I talk a lot about it on this show. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that's associated with reward and motivation. So increased levels of dopamine then lead to improved motivation, improved focus, improved mood. And of course, you're also getting the release of endorphins when you're mindful. And they're associated with that feel-good, positive energy. And overall, we're looking at the overall picture of what mindfulness is doing in terms of neuronal activity and brain activity. Well, what it's doing is promoting what we call neural plasticity. And what is neural plasticity? Well, it's the brain's ability to change and adapt. And regular mindfulness practice has been shown to increase that new neurons, to increase the growth of new neurons and to strengthen existing neural connections. So that in turn leads to much better cognitive thinking functions and much better emotional flexibility. And there's many additional benefits to mindfulness. So one meta-analysis, which looked at 29 randomized controlled trials, that was a total of 2,873 participants. This particular meta-analysis found that those who received an 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction program, an MBSR program, they had less anxiety, less depression, less stress. And another study, this was interesting, it was also published in 2015. This looked at 75 adults experiencing pain. And those who received the MBSR program, who took part in an 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction program, they had a significant reduction in pain intensity. So mindfulness is having a direct effect on pain. And there's other physical health benefits as well. There's lowered blood pressure, reduced inflammation, and more responsive immune function. So the benefits, the net of mindfulness is cast wide and far. So I hope now, knowing all of this and realizing this has now helped you to make a decision to bring mindfulness into your everyday. So what I'll do at the end is I'll give you 3 hacks, 3 mindfulness practices that you can use straight away as well. But before I do that, let's have a look at data. What data can be helpful with mindfulness? So data can be a useful tool in supporting mindfulness and in enhancing its effectiveness. So there's various types of data that you can track to support your mindfulness practice. So let me give you a few examples of things you can track. Well, you can track time. So although I've said mindfulness is something that you can call upon in any moment, in the moment, you can also create focused mindfulness sessions where you do set aside time to be present with your thoughts and your emotions and your sensations. And what you can do is track the duration of your mindfulness practice sessions, just noting the start time and the end time. And what this does is it helps you to ensure that you're then dedicating time to practice to maintain consistency. You can track frequency. You can track how often you engage in mindfulness practices, such as the number of sessions per day or per week or per month. And again, this helps you monitor your practice habits and ensure regularity and consistency. Techniques, you can track techniques. You can track the specific mindfulness techniques or exercises that you're using during your practice, things like breath awareness or body scans or mindful eating. And by tracking your techniques, it helps you then to identify which techniques work best for you and which ones you might want to focus on or explore further. Physical sensations. You can track physical sensations that arise during your mindfulness practice. So thinking about things like tension and warmth or tingling or pain. And by tracking this, what that does is helps you develop greater body awareness, really understanding how your body responds to different mindfulness techniques. There's physical sensations. There's also emotions. You can track your emotions or your mood before, during, and after your mindfulness practice. And this helps you to become much more aware of your emotional state and how it might fluctuate during your practice. It gives you insights into the impact of mindfulness on your emotional well-being as well. If you're tracking emotions, track your thoughts. You can track your thoughts or your mental content that arises during your mindfulness practice, things like tracking distractions or judgments or worries. And by doing this, you'll be more aware of the patterns of your thought, develop that greater cognitive awareness. And what about physiological responses? This is something I've always loved talking about. And if you have access to physiological sensors, so things like wearable devices, then you can track physiological responses during your mindfulness practice, get some real imperative data on your physiology, what's happening at a deeper level, things like your heart rate or brainwave activity or skin conductance. And this gives you very objective feedback on your body's response. So it helps you to understand the physiological effects of mindfulness. There's more you can track. You can track outcomes. You can track changes in mental health symptoms or stress levels or emotional well-being or focus or clarity, all of this outcomes of your mindfulness practice. So using things like questionnaires or assessment to measure changes in outcomes over time as well. Or measuring and tracking mindfulness practice related goals. So if you set goals related to your mindfulness practice, such as, and we've already described, practicing for a certain number of minutes every day, or achieving a certain level of consistency, or mastering a particular mindfulness technique, you can then track your progress towards these goals, which then gives you that motivation and that reinforcement for your practice as well. And remember, the type of data that you choose to track, well, it really should align with your personal goals and your preferences. So it's really important to approach data tracking as well with a non-judgmental, compassionate attitude, because mindfulness is all about cultivating present moment awareness and self-compassion. And data can be used as a very supportive tool to enhance your practice, not as a source of stress or comparison or judgment. So use data tracking in a positive way to give you personalized insights into your own unique needs and your own preferences. So if you're tracking your mood or your energy or your stress levels, then you can identify patterns and then start to tailor your mindfulness practice to much better suit you and your current state and your needs. So personalizing your practice is what will enhance its effectiveness and make it much more enjoyable and sustainable. And you can do this by capturing data which you can then reflect on and use to make changes, because it's data that really serves as a motivator and reinforcement for maintaining a consistent mindfulness practice. Because when you see positive changes in your data, when you see things improving, it reinforces the benefits of your practice and then, of course, encourages you to continue as well. So that's data. What about devices? What devices are available to support mindfulness? Well, there's many, and let me give you some examples. So firstly, mindfulness apps. There's lots and lots of mindfulness apps available for smartphones and tablets that really give you guided mindfulness exercises and timers and reminders, which will support your mindfulness practice. So some examples of ones that I've used, things like Headspace and Calm and Insight Timer. Then there's wearable devices. So some wearable devices, such as smartwatches or fitness trackers, they come with built-in mindfulness features, such as guided breathing exercises or heart rate variability monitoring as well. So things like the Apple Watch, the Oura Ring, the Samsung Watch, Fitbits, Garmin's, etc. And there's also biofeedback devices. Now, biofeedback devices, they're designed to provide real-time feedback on physiological responses, things like your heart rate or your skin conductance or your brainwave EEG type activity, which then helps you become much more aware of your body's response during mindfulness practice. So examples of devices you can use here are things like HeartMath or Muse or Inner Balance as well. And what's also available is mindfulness journals. So mindfulness journals, well, what they're designed to do is to help you cultivate mindfulness through what I described earlier, reflection, through self-inquiry, using journaling as the tool to do this. And many of these journals will include prompts and exercises and spaces for you to record your thoughts and your feelings and all your experiences related to mindfulness. And there's also mindfulness cards or mindfulness decks. So what these are sets of cards with prompts and quotes or exercises that you can use as reminders or tools for practicing mindfulness through the day. And you can use these as part of a daily ritual or a source of inspiration, just a reminder to bring your attention to a present moment. And I did this, if you look at my Instagram and social media from June 2020, what I did was a daily mindfulness post for 30 days where I used mindfulness cards to build a mindfulness habit. And the important thing overall really is to choose the resources or tools that really resonate with you, that resonate with your own specific needs and your preferences. And it's essential that you approach these resources with a very open and discerning mind and use them as supportive tools to really complement your mindfulness practice rather than as a replacement for your own direct experience and awareness of the present moment. So, that has answered today's question. How can I make mindfulness easy? Well, simply make a decision to embed mindfulness into your everyday and use data and devices to reap immediate benefits. So now, to get your mindfulness practice going immediately, I'm going to leave you with 3 1-minute mindfulness hacks so that you can do them straight away after listening to this episode. Now, the first exercise is 1-minute mindful breathing. So simply find a quiet spot, sit comfortably, Take a deep breath in through your nose. And as you exhale through your mouth, bring your full attention to your breath. Just notice the sensation of the breath entering and leaving your body. Notice the rise and fall of your belly. Just observe your breath without judgment. Just allow any thoughts or distractions that you have to just pass by without getting caught up in them. Do that for 1 minute. Immerse yourself fully in the experience of your breath. Second exercise, second hack is a 1-minute body scan. So sit or stand comfortably for this with your eyes open or closed, whatever you prefer, and bring your attention to your body and start scanning from the top of your head down to the tips of your toes. Spend about 10-15 seconds on each area, any area you choose. Notice any sensations, tension, relaxation in your body. Just notice it, but don't try and change anything. Simply observe and acknowledge what you feel without judgment. Spend 10-15 seconds on each area, move slowly and mindfully on to another area, and take a minute to complete the body scan. And the third exercise, the third hack, is a 1-minute gratitude practice. So take a moment to reflect on something you're grateful for. It could be something big, something small, from a beautiful sunset to a kind word from a friend. Choose what you choose. Close your eyes. Bring it to mind. This moment of gratitude, bring it to mind. And allow yourself to fully immerse in this feeling of gratitude. Notice the sensations and emotions that arise. And just stay with this feeling of gratitude for 1 minute, savoring it and allowing it to fill your awareness. So there's 3 quick 1-minute mindfulness hacks. So remember, these 1-minute mindfulness hacks, they are simple and they're quick practices. You can do them anytime, anywhere. They help you pause and reset and come back to the present moment with awareness and intention. You can incorporate them into your daily routine, or you can use them as you need to whenever you feel stressed or overwhelmed or disconnected from the present moment. Regular practice. That's what will help you cultivate greater mindfulness and greater presence in your everyday, leading then to increased well-being and a whole range of benefits that we've talked about, including stress reduction, increased resilience, improved emotional regulation, better attention, better focus, better memory, better problem-solving skills, better decision-making abilities, increased self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-regulation, better interpersonal relationships, better communication, empathy, compassion, workplace benefits, better productivity, creativity, innovation, and also physical health benefits, lower blood pressure, more sustained weight loss, less pain, and improved immune function. There's every reason to be more mindful. So now I wish you a mindful day with a multitude of mindful moments.